He coaches the best staff in the Sun Belt. He's Ragin Cajuns pitching coach Gunnar Leje, next on Locked On Sun Belt.
You are Locked On Sun Belt, your daily podcast on the Sun Belt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. Finally, we get Gunnar Leje, former Ragin Cajuns pitcher and now pitching coach. He will join us talking about the biggest adjustment to becoming a pitching coach. Cajuns have gone through a little rotation shift, and they're actually 2/3 of the way back to the original rotation now. And then what's it like being on this 15-game winning streak? They look to make it 16 tonight against Prairie View A&M. Let's get to it. He is the pitching coach for the Louisiana Ragin Cajuns. Here's Gunnar Leje on Locked On Sun Belt. Dave Schultz back on another edition of Locked On Sun Belt, your team every day. It's an honor and a privilege to have my next guest on. He's a former Ragin Cajuns superstar pitcher. He's now the Ragin Cajuns pitching coach. They're the number one pitching staff in the Sun Belt. I'm sure there's no correlation with that. He is Gunnar Leje. Gunnar, thanks for hopping on Locked On Sun Belt. And how are you?
How's it going, Dave? I'm going good, man. Everything's
I appreciate
everything's good in Cajun country.
I guess so. Ranked nationally for the first time, I think basically since you pitched. So let's go back. We talk about it on my radio show, but I don't think about on Locked On Sun Belt. What's this experience been like? Being the pitching coach for your former alma mater.
It's been great, man. It was a whirlwind a little bit. Everybody calls us the water hose boys. I kind of felt like I was drinking out of a water hose a little bit for a little while, as quick as all this has happened. Obviously had some learning experiences, had to, get my feet underneath me, but the group's been great. We got a great group of guys, work hard, very coachable. And obviously it's always good to put this uniform on, and represent the city and the university. And, the job that Coach Deggs and Coach Tibb have done has been exceptional, along with Zach and Coach Wells, who obviously is no longer here. But everybody involved, man, Bab, Carter, everybody. It's just the places, the organization's at a great place, and I'm just glad to be a part of it.
All right, so correct me if I'm wrong. Is this your first professional coaching experience? You weren't coaching high school or anything, right?
No. I was doing commercial insurance sales. I had a little travel team of 11-year-olds.
Okay.
Shout out the captains. So my buddy's actually coaching them now. But no, I had a little travel team and did some lessons on the side, and obviously stayed in coaching, but obviously not as a profession. So this was the first go round. So
then what's been the adjustment like for you trying to, because how many of these guys knew you as much as the fans are well aware of Gunnar Leje? Did you kind of have to introduce yourself to this team? How many of these guys did you know?
Well, we have a handful of kids that I actually knew pretty well. Okay. I mean, Blake Marshall's 23, 24 years old. I mean, we're not that far in an age gap, I'm 28. So, some of these kids are pretty close to my age, which I think was kind of the biggest adjustment, just establishing somewhat of a line of respect mutually both ways, just obviously I'm not here to be their friend. I'm here to make them better. And obviously we can have a relationship and we can trust each other and communicate and things. But I think that, anybody that's played sports, there's always got to be a line of respect there. I think really that was the biggest adjustment initially, headed into the fall. And like I said, we have a great group, and they took that and ran with it, and they've been great to me. And I feel like I've reciprocated as well. And I would say the biggest adjustment in game, once kind of some of the game started and stuff, was the game happens fast, man, especially now with this pitch clock. You got to make decisions, in a hurry. So I think, I got a feel for it somewhat in the fall and some of our scrimmages and stuff like that. But, once obviously the bullets start flying a little bit, if you will, and the game's really rolling, you got to make decisions pretty quick. So I think it took me a second, a couple games, a week or so to get situated a little bit to where I felt like I was in control of, what I needed to be in control of, and could make those decisions and felt comfortable with them. So, but I feel like, we've hit our stride, and everybody's kind of found their role and their groove. And like I said, all is well right now in Cajun country.
I'm talking to Gunnar Leger, Ragin Cajuns pitching coach. All right, so some things have changed, not only the clock, but, the way the pitch is called. It used to be just the catcher relaying the signs. Now I think you're calling the game. So tell me about that, because before, did the late, great Tony Robichaux call the game? Because I think the catchers called the game because they knew what he wanted, and they knew, the Robe system was based on what the hitter was doing. So are we using the same system, but you're the one calling the pitch?
Yeah, it is. It's the majority of the system is obviously based off his system, with some little tweaks here and there, my own, I guess, a little modernization of the system, if you will. But that's the bedrock of it for sure, is what Coach Robe taught us. We have some guys on the team that do call their own pitches, and that goes on Cheo and him, obviously with with how much technology is taking over the game. We have the ability to, I can basically send them a scouting report on their band that they have. It is basically an iPad, which it looks just like an iPad, what I have in the dugout. And their little watch they wear is essentially an Apple Watch. And so it's a little screen. It can display words. It can display different things. And so initially, I've called the majority of the pitches for the season. But every pitcher, the moment I got here, the first thing I told him is, I want them to throw the pitch with conviction. And that's really coming from Coach Robe. He used to always tell us that. And so they have complete autonomy to shake me at any time. And I'm, if you've been to some games, the little swipe system that we have when they start swiping their chest is basically like shakes. And so we have a counting system there so that just everybody's on the same page when they do decide to shake. Early on, we kind of were more traditional with the shakes, and they would shake, and I would kind of shuffle through pitches until we got to what they wanted. But no, they've had complete autonomy to shake the whole year. Just recently, just for the flow of the game, and like I said, with the pitch clock being as fast as it is, I just felt for the flow of the game for some of these guys, it was almost better to just let them go. LP, for example, if you've been to some games in the past couple weeks, once he made the switch back to the bullpen and we made some adjustments, I've kind of put it in him and Cheo's hands. Obviously, I have our iPad and I can send him things, something simple as, bat on breaking ball, or, stay with velo, or attack away, just things like give them little nuggets to help them sift through the at bat. But, it's different for different guys. Some guys are, the Andrew Ramon and Chase Morgan are playing a little different game than LP is. So LP is winning with stuff. And that's not to say he can't locate it right and pitch, but he's kind of the bully on the block when he's getting out there. Whereas Herman and Chase are kind of more of, I guess, a traditional to what people were used to seeing from this pitching staff, right? It's, the lefty with pitch ability, can sink it, can, throw any pitch in any count, stuff like that. So like I said, that's kind of where I had to make an adjustment with some of our guys that, they're not all playing the same game, and they all play it differently, and they need to approach it differently. And that's important for their success. So I think that was another big adjustment that I had to make, was just make sure that we were putting everybody in the best situation to be successful.
All right, let's take a timeout. When we come back, we'll talk to Gunnar Leger about relating to the pitchers on his staff. LP Langevin throws some heat, whereas Andrew Herman and Chase Morgan are more like him, maybe more finesse pitchers. Let me tell you about FanDuel. It's playoff time in the NBA and NHL. Baseball's in full swing, and FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150, win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on the app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's get back to our conversation with Ragin Cajuns pitching coach Gunnar Leger about relating to the different pitchers on his staff. All right, so those are some great examples. We're talking to Gunnar Leger, Lockdown Sunbelt. Your team every day is the Ragin Cajuns, pitching coach, 5-game week, Prairie View, A&M, Louisiana Tech, and then hosting Marshall before heading with a home and home with Southeastern, then a big series against Coastal the following week. All right, so let's talk about that. For those who don't know or don't remember, whatever the case may be, Gunnar more along the lines of Andrew Herman or a Chase Morgan, kind of going to put it where they want to. Maybe got it into the, low 90s once in a while, but usually pitching it at, controlled 88 to 89 miles per hour. LP Lajavon, I'm not sure how much they're calling. I got to figure there's a lot of major league going on there. Forget about the curveball, Ricky. Just throwing the heater.
Doubt. Yeah,
that's
you're right about
about
that.
So did you have an easier time relating to Andrew and to Chase to like, hey, I am you. I was you. You gotta be confident throwing that, 3-1 changeup because they're sitting on a fastball.
Yeah. Well, I think for those guys, in the case of Herm, Herm came from a very good JUCO in Florida and is, has always just kind of been gritty and pitched and won games, found ways to win games. And I think that, more than anything, it was it a little easier for me to, I guess, relate to them and how they approach the game. Sure. I think that was a little more seamless of a transition into helping them along, but LP's also very advanced. We have other guys like LP Jack, JT Etheridge, people like that, where obviously it wasn't my game necessarily, but you see it now, and it's even in the big leagues. The Rays organization is literally just basically throw strikes. Like that's the goal with a lot of their guys with elite stuff. Like it's, hey, shrink the plate, attack everything through the middle of the plate, and more times than not you're going to win just because your stuff's good. And so I think it was kind of simplifying that approach, because the system can kind of be complex at times, and kind of how we run things. And like I said, a big influence was obviously Coach Robe. So it's a major pitchability influence, quote unquote pitchability. It's approaching the game that way. So I think simplifying that for them was important. And it really is just a mindset deal, which was something that we just had to discuss as a group or individually with those guys that need to approach it that way, and like I said, almost be the bully on the block. Like, hey, here's my, like you saying, here's my heater. Good luck,
Right.
And so that's just some adjustments we've had to make as a group over time. And like I said, they've all been so great, man. It's a great group of guys.
All right, so then we've gone through, and we've almost gone through full circle what the rotation was the first 2 weeks to what it was and to what it is now, right? 2/3 of the rotation is back, although I guess Carson was more out of it due to being banged up than anything else. He pitched a good 4 innings on Sunday, but Chase was out of it. He was coming out of the bullpen. How difficult is it as a pitching coach and as a former player to have that conversation? We're going to put you coming out of the pen and you're going to come in during the middle of the week, right? I mean, as you mentioned, Jack Martinez, right? He was the opening day starter, and all of a sudden, a few weeks later, he was getting mop-up duty in the middle of the week. He's back and starting. He's probably going to see a lot of action this week. How as a young pitching coach, still only 28, so not that far removed from your playing days, what's that conversation like when you have to tell somebody we're making a change? It may not be permanent, but you are making a change at least temporarily.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's, like I tell all of our guys, I don't want you to be okay with it in a way, right? Like I want a bunch of guys that want the ball when it matters and want the ball on Friday night and, want to be in the big moments. If we had a bunch of guys that were just okay with it and didn't really care, then I think that's also a problem, but like I said, they all pull for each other. I don't think that there is no selfishness going on from that standpoint. So obviously it's a tough conversation. But, I think that with how well they're wired and how much they care about the group and not individual success so much, that it makes it a little easier. I think from the standpoint of how much we've moved around the rotation, I think is a little bit of just figuring out where people fit best and also where, what they need to do to have success. And I'll use LP as an example. LP was somebody last year in JUCO kind of basically did what he's doing now. It was, they would play one midweek game, then they'd have a doubleheader on Friday or Saturday. And so he would always throw multiple times a week. And that was something after the Arkansas State series where he kind of struggled. And that was really his worst outing of the year, just in an effort to kind of figure out, what led to that. And we got to the discussion of, I feel like I need to throw more than once a week, and I feel like my bullpens haven't been as high intent maybe as they should be. And so he's a guy that just needs to get out there and go, and he's not wired like a quote unquote starter. Not saying that he can't do it, because obviously he did show that against Vanderbilt that he can, but it's more of a mindset deal where he needs to be, high intent, bully on the block, like I'm gonna go get it, and then, do it for one inning. And if you get another inning, you get another. And then you just basically more of a one inning stint than like, hey, I need to go be the starter. I need to get us to the sixth inning. Sometimes that mindset is a little different from, how hard am I getting after it the first couple innings? Am I saving a little energy for the fifth, sixth, seventh, stuff like that, which I think you can kind of see just by watching, Chase Morgan or Andrew Ramon and then LP come out. Obviously the stuff is different, but I think you can see how different they approach the game, right? Like it's Herm is kind of, it's like an artist, he's just, it's slow strokes, and it's picks, and it's slow the game down, then it's speed the game up. And then LP, it's like he comes out and it's just bam, bam. It's one after another, right in your face, which is just what he needs to, that's where he needs to be mentally to have success. Right. And I think Jack was the same way. Jack was a reliever. I say reliever. The Division III was that he was their best arm, and he just threw a lot, right? So it was kind of whenever the team needed him. And so he was out of the bullpen a lot in big situations. And I think that there was a little bit where he was trying to figure out how to be, a quote unquote starter. And I think sometimes that's tough. It's a tough transition because it's more mental than anything, right? Like it's still pitching, but I think that's where you throw a wrench into things sometimes is inevitably you start feeling like, well, I got to get us to the fifth, or I got to get us to the sixth. And some guys need to go out there and just cut it loose. And that's just how they have success. That's what they need to do to have success. Whereas a Chase Morgan can go out there and, throw at 80% and throw 88 miles an hour and, paint the corners and change speeds and go in and out and up and down. Whereas Jack and LP are just playing a little different game. And like I said, with JT would be looped into that category as well. Those big boys. But I think it was mainly, the changing of everything was just figuring out where everybody fit and where do we need to put everybody to where they can have success. And ultimately, obviously, we can have success because of that.
Talking to Gunnar Leger, Ragin Cajuns pitching coach, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. All right, so let's use that LP Langevin example because it kind of felt like we're doing a little testing in that Texas State series where he pitched a lot in the first game. I think that was Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Easter weekend. So he pitched a lot in that Thursday game, and we see what he had left on Saturday. And it was I know it was two completely different pitchers, but they couldn't touch him on Thursday, and then they did touch him up on Saturday. Were you guys testing to see how what Herman has to do or how much he can pitch? It's more about LP. How much he can pitch until we can't bring him back? Like because you guys did it over the weekend, right? He pitched on Friday and then pitched on Sunday for an inning.
Yep. For us, it's basically what we've done is we've given LP a pitch count on the week, essentially. So depending on, instead of like, hey, you're the starter and you got 90 pitches, it's you got 80 to 100 pitches on the week, right? And obviously we're very careful with him, especially obviously he's got a future as many of these guys will. So we're doing everything we can to keep him healthy, but in an effort to get him out there multiple times a week because he expressed wanting to do that. And obviously I think everybody's seen that's led to some success, obviously after the Arkansas State series. So, and that outing for him, but it's the goal obviously is for him to come out on Friday, and he's more than capable of going multiple innings. So it's more of a piggyback situation, if you will, to where Herm goes until he can't, or until we feel like, he's kind of running out of gas. And then LP comes in, whether that be the sixth, the seventh, the eighth. And he just he rolls. That's his outing as well. And if Herm goes and gets us to the eighth, and he's only got to throw an inning, much like on this Friday, it was 24 pitches for LP in that outing. And then he comes back and throws another 25 or 26, I believe. So the big thing that I think you saw, at least he was more extended at Texas State. So was a little more fatigued on that Saturday game.
Right.
But also people don't take into account as well as you get under the lights, man, and that fastball is already pretty electric, but you get under the lights and it gets a little tougher to see. And so there's some strategy to that as well, which is really, that's Coach Deggs coming into play there. But there's definitely some strategy there, getting him under the lights, and that fastball gets a little more slippery, So, but no, the goal is definitely to use him, 2 to 3 at the most, but really 2 times a week. And so you'll most likely see him at some point in the middle of the week this week, just because his outings were so short this weekend. And then you'll probably, you'll obviously see him again this weekend at some point.
All right, let's take one more timeout. When we come back, we'll wrap up our conversation with Gunnar Leje, talking to him about making pitching changes and what it was like when he had to go through it with Tony Robichaux. Let me tell you a little bit about Lafayette Travel. Escape to Lafayette, Louisiana, the happiest city in America, where every visit is uniquely seasoned with unforgettable experiences. Savor world-class cuisine, including mouth-watering boudin, savory gumbo, and piping hot crawfish, seasoned to perfection. Experience lively festivals that celebrate Lafayette's one-of-a-kind heritage. Explore magnificent trails that lead you through our rich cultural history and breathtaking natural beauty. Discover the untouched purity of our cypress and Tupelo swamps, where you can paddle past nesting birds and sunbathing alligators. Immerse yourself in the vibrant rhythms of Cajun and Zydeco music that can be heard any night of the week. Whether your passion is for our rich cultural history, the bustling culinary scene, or the distinctive blend of Cajun and Zydeco music, the happiest city in America has something for everyone. Start planning your adventure at LafayetteTravel.com/season. All right, Dave Schultz, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. Let's wrap up our conversation with Gunnar Leje, the Ragin Cajuns pitching coach, Gunnar Leje. Game has changed a lot, right? Starters generally are not going, forget 7 or 8 or 9 innings. They hardly go 5 or 6. Well, Gunnar, not that long ago, would go 7, 8 innings, maybe even 9. What's it like when he has to go out and take a pitcher that may not want to come out of the game when Gunnar says it's time? Talking to Gunnar Leje, Ragin Cajuns pitching coach, Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. A couple more questions. All right, so you're not that far removed from playing, but the game has changed dramatically. There are guys like you and Austin Robichaux, the previous Friday night starter for the Cajuns. Anything less than 100 pitches in 7, 8 innings, it's a problem. I can only imagine what it was like if Tony came out and grabbed you a little bit sooner, a little side eye to the coach. So what's it like when you're what's it like when you're going out there and making a pitching change when they don't want to come out? Because I got a feeling you've had a couple of, really, I can finish this. No, we're going to go to the pen.
Yeah, no, that's always an interesting conversation.
As the kind of competitor that I know you were.
Yeah. No, and these guys, Herm's a perfect example. Which I'm sure some people have noticed. I walk out there and I don't even look at them. I didn't do that on Friday. I walk with my head down because I know that, when you get in that zone, man, it's kind of like a you versus everybody type deal. And so you may do or react or say things that maybe you wouldn't normally, right? And
Sure.
And Herm is a heck of a competitor. And so this Friday, for example, I go out there and LP was getting ready, and he knew that, obviously, and he's in the dugout going, give me 1 more, give me 2 more, which I want, right? Like, you want that from your Friday night starter. And so when I went out there, we all knew that he was coming. He knew he was coming out, so I didn't even look at him. I looked up, and he was not happy, to say the least. But I stuck my hand out, and I said, I know you already know. Just give me the ball. I was like, you're about to get a standing ovation. So it was good. No, I mean, like I said, it's tough, but they really do, man. They're obviously, I played for a while and grew up around sports with my dad and just everything. I was always around sports, whether it be football, baseball, whatever. This group, man, is one of the most it's the best group of just teammates one of the best groups I've ever been around, man. They pull for each other. I mean, they'll give up at bats just so the other one can have an at bat. and it's the same on the pitching side. They're all pulling in one direction, which makes it fun to coach and just be a part of in general. Because obviously they're driving the bus. They're the ones making the pitches and getting the hits and doing the things. We're just trying to put them in the best situations possible to be able to do that for us.
All right, so let's wrap this up with Ragin Cajuns pitching coach Gunnar Leger. What's it been like on the streak? 15 in a row. Yeah. That is outrageous for baseball. It's getting a lot of comparisons to 2014, but it is. It's just a different ball club. This team is just as talented. I get it. But that team, I don't know how much you know about the 2014 team. That's before you arrived. There was a bunch of guys that could bop it and could bunt it and could, beat it out, right? There were a bunch of Josh Alexanders on the team and Kyle Labarters on the team. Whereas there are different, there were less Amadis and Pastors on the team, whereas there were more Josh Alexanders. Let's put it that way. As a comparison. So, but what's it been like on this streak? Because it has been, I think the total innings you guys have been behind has been like 8. And I'm not even counting falling behind Texas State in the first game because Connor Higgs hit like the 3rd pitch out of the next inning. So you weren't even behind as far as I'm concerned to that.
Yeah, no, it's been unbelievable, man. They've, it's a testament to them as a group and the internal leadership in that locker room, which obviously Coach Deggs and Coach Tibb and Zach and all, the coach staff has a part to do it. But, that falls on the players, man. We were struggling. There wasn't no way around it, A lot of games where, we were just as talented. Obviously, it's just we weren't really playing together. It was, we would hit and not pitch and not hit. And, we showed flashes. It just wasn't all coming together. And they just kept going, man. Like I said, they're a special group of kids, and they kept pulling for each other. Nobody went off the reservation and did anything crazy. They handled the things they needed to handle, and they just kept playing, man. Kept playing hard. That's one thing I'll give them. They play hard, and I think we've always played hard here. I think that's been a calling card of this place for a long time, just as a program. But we play real hard, and they play really hard. And we just kept going, one foot in front of the other, and I think finally you just got to see everybody kind of find their stride. It just so happened to happen at the same time, the lineup, they kind of find their spots in the lineup, they find their positions, and some guys start to separate themselves. So you see a little more consistency there. And then, we found some consistency with some guys in certain spots of the rotation. So then, it all comes together. And I think really we just started getting off to a little better starts at the beginning of games to where you're not always playing from behind, because we were playing from behind a good bit, early in the season. And that it doesn't matter how good you are. That's tough to do consistently, right, and win games. And we did. Testament to them. We won some games that we probably shouldn't have, but I think we're finding our groove, So, and I think you're seeing consistency out of everybody everywhere, from top to bottom there. So I think, winning cures all, as everybody really would say. I grew up with it with my dad. So winning cures all. So I think you start winning some games, some guys get some confidence, and they kind of find their roles, and then everything just, stacks on top of each other there.
All right. So early on in the season, and last question. I did see your dad, Tim Leger. He's the offensive coordinator for the Ragin Cajuns football team. Also, he claims he caught the ball for the Corpus Christi Barracudas in the Texas-Louisiana League. I don't know if I have proof of that. He certainly has a baseball card of me. My hair is out of control in the wind of Corpus Christi. But nonetheless, I caught a picture of you guys talking after a game, and it kind of looked like he was coaching you again, like always coaching you. He's coaching the coach. It was really early into the season. Was that right? Did I get that right?
No, there's no doubt. No. There's no doubt. And I'm usually asking him, because like I said, it's obviously this season's been great, and we've had some success on the mound, which is a testament to them and how talented they are. But, I still got a lot to learn, and I'm still figuring it out daily, So there's a lot of situations where I lean on him, or I lean on Coach Deggs or Coach Tibb, or just really anybody that's been doing it. So by no stretch of the imagination did I have this thing figured out. I'm still figuring it out. So, but like I said, I think that I've been lucky. I played for a lot of great coaches, and was around the game really my whole life. So I think, you know, I had a good base to start, but you know, the game's always changing and it's so different. Like you just kind of stated, it's so different even to when I was playing here. So just being able to adapt and change and learn how to, you know, really manage and handle the kids and the generation and just, you know, the like Marshall's 23, 24, and then we have some 18-year-olds on the staff, you know, so it's like you got a generation gap there. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of almost the biggest thing for me is just learning who they are as people, learning how to approach them, how to coach them, how do they communicate, you know, things like that. So
He's Gunnar Leger, Ragin Cajuns pitching coach, 5-game week. You got Prairie View, A&M. You got La Tech, Marshall. Big series in a couple weeks. Coastal Carolina. We'll worry about that then. Really appreciate the time, Gunnar. Thanks for hopping on Locked On Sunbelt, and we will see you at the park. Thanks again.
sounds good. Thanks, Dave.